Okay, welcome back. Today I've got a four-part videos that I want to share. The first part is talking about slope intercept. The next video will be point slope, then parallel lines, and the fourth and last one will be perpendicular lines. Okay, so let's recall if we can remember what slope intercept form looks like. Now, most people will say that it is y equals mx plus b. Now, slope. Slope is going to be the m in our equation. Now, our slope could be 0. It could be any positive number, negative numbers. It could even be fractions, whether positive fractions or negative fractions. Now, b is the y-intercept. I'm going to just do y-int for y-intercept. And that's why we call this slope-intercept, because we will know the slope and also the y-intercept. Now, to sort of get us with this feel with the m, which is the slope, and b, the y-intercept, let's look at number 1. I give you m is 0 and b is 4. And I want you to translate this into an equation. What I mean is, okay, let's do it in mx plus b form. Okay, m is 0, b is 2. Now, anything that you multiply by 0 is always 0. So my equation on my first line is just y equals 2. Next, let's take a look at when m is negative 2/3 and b is 3/4. So let's put in negative 2/3 in for my m, so negative 2/3 x. Since 3/4 is positive, put plus 3/4. And this is what our equation should look like. And finally, I give you a slope, or an m of 4/5. And a b is 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in 4/5, that's my m in front of my x, plus 0. So really, this is just 4/5 x. Now we're going to apply this to graphing. We're going to graph by this slope-intercept form. Now, I have negative 3/4 x plus 1, and I'm asking to graph this. So you can come out here and say, okay, m is negative 3/4, my b is 1, so b is my starting point at 1. B is on it's the y-intercept, so it starts on the y-axis. So I'm either going to go up or down. Since 1 is positive, my first point is 1. Now, what this negative 3/4 tells us is it tells me I need to think about rise over run. And I misspelled rise because that's dealing with the y-axis. So I'm running along the x-axis and I'm rising or I'm falling, depends on the negative sign, on the y-axis. So this means I'm going to go over 4 from my 1, 2, 3, 4. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down 3. So right here, I'm going to go down 3. 1, 2, 3. This is my new point. So my line would go just like this. Now notice I'm 4 and down 3. That is part of my fraction. So let's try another one. Let's do y equals 2/5 x minus 3. So in this one, my negative 3 is my starting point. So negative 3, I'm going down 3 on my y-axis. And my 2/5 tells me I need to run 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And since 2 is positive, I'm going up 2. 1, 2. This is my new point. Now notice the difference between these two graphs. My example number 4 graph is going downward position because of the negative sign. My example number 5 is going upward from left to right. That is because my 2/5 or my slope is positive. What happens when you have y equals 2x minus 1? Well, we're still going to follow my same pattern. Now I'm going to look at my negative 1. My negative 1, I'm going down 1 on the x-axis. Now 2. We like fractions, but 2 is not a fraction. So what I want to do is I want to put 1 underneath of it. This means I'm running 1, and then I'm going up 2. 1, 2. This right here is my new point. And this also is going up. This also is going upward because the 2, which is the slope, is positive. Now, what happens when we have negative 3x and there's nothing behind it? Well, since there's nothing behind it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say plus 0, because what that means is that starts at the origin, or 0. Now I'm going to use negative 3. I'm going to put it over 1. And this tells me I need to run along the x-axis 1 time. Then I need to go down 3 from that point. 1, 2, 3. This is going to be my new point. Now just connect the dots. And notice from left to right it goes downward. And it's because of the negative 3. Now this is what it's understanding slope-intercept form. So now I'm giving you an equation, negative 5x plus y equals 3. And I'm asking you to graph this. So I get asked a lot by students, what should I do? Well, just remember, anytime you have an equation and you want to graph it, you can solve for y. So what I'm going to do is I want to put a box around this y, and I need to solve for y. That means I need to add 5x to both sides to cancel the negative 5x. You do it to one side, you do it to the other. This means y equals 5x plus 3. You cannot combine any of these terms because they're not like terms. So from this point right here, I'm going to start off with 3 right here. And this 5 over 1 means I go running 1 and then up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's my graph. So if you want to pause at any time, you can always pause and look how I do it, and that gives you some time to practice. So now what I want to do is I want to take my advice I did in my example number 8. I want to solve for y. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to box in this negative 3y, and I'm going to move my 2x over by subtracting 2x. So negative 3y equals negative 2x plus 12. And finally, in this case, since I have a number in front of y, in this case it's negative 3, I'm going to divide everything by negative 3. Common mistake on this problem would be that we just divide the first by negative 3 and not the second part. You have to divide everything by negative 3. This gives me an equation y equals, the two negatives cancel each other out and make a positive. So it's 2/3 x, one positive divided by a negative is a negative, and then 3 goes into 12 4 times. So this means I'm going to start at negative 4. I'm going to go my 2/3. That means I'm going to go over 3. 1, 2, 3. Up 2. 1, 2. Those are my 2 points. I'm going to graph it. And there we go. One more example and I'm finished. What happens when I have x equals 2/3 y? Well, right off the bat, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it and make it 2/3 y equals x. Now, I need to know how to get rid of this 2/3 or take the 2/3 and put it on the right side of the equation. So by doing this, since this is multiplication, you can divide by 2/3, or divided by 2/3 means if you flip the fraction or take the reciprocal, you have to do it on both sides. If you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Look what the 3's do. They cancel each other out. Look what the 2's do. You're left with y equals 3/2 x. Now, since there's no number behind the x, we're going to put a plus 0 there. That means it starts at the origin. This 3/2 means I'm running 2 along the x-axis, and I'm going up 3. Look at it. It's going upward because the slope in this case is positive. It's a positive 3/2. So be looking for my next video, which is going to be point slope. Thank you for listening.